My son uninvited me to his wedding via text message. Not a phone call, not a conversation, just 3 lines sent at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Mom, Patricia and I talked. Given the tension, we think it's best if you don't come to the wedding. Hope you understand. 43 years of being his mother, reduced to a text message sent after midnight. I stared at those words in my dark bedroom. The blue light of my phone illuminating tears I refused to let fall. What Marcus didn't know was that I'd been quietly documenting every lie Patricia had told about me for the past 8 months. And what happened during my week-long disappearance would expose secrets that destroyed their perfect wedding plans and revealed exactly who my future daughter-in-law really was. I'm Linda Morrison, 67 years old, retired elementary school teacher from Portland, Oregon. For 41 years, I taught 2nd grade at Roosevelt Elementary, shaping young minds and earning a modest pension that, combined with my late husband David's life insurance, gave me comfortable independence. David died 6 years ago, a sudden heart attack at 63 that left me a widow with a paid-off house in the suburbs and enough savings to live without worry. We'd raised Marcus together, our only child, pouring everything into his education and future. Stanford undergraduate, Columbia Law School, now a junior partner at Patterson and Associates, one of Portland's most prestigious law firms. We'd been so proud, then he met Patricia Westmer 18 months ago at some charity gala his firm hosted. 29 years old, marketing director at a tech startup, from what she called old Portland money. Her family owned Westmer Properties, a commercial real estate empire worth approximately $47 million, according to public records I'd quietly researched. Patricia was beautiful in that calculated way. Her blonde hair always perfectly styled, her wardrobe consisting entirely of designer labels I recognized from window shopping but could never afford. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd never questioned whether she belonged anywhere. The engagement came fast, only 6 months after they started dating. Marcus called me on a Sunday morning in March, breathless with excitement. "Mom, I proposed last night." She said yes. "We're getting married in September 14th to be specific, at the Westmore family estate overlooking the Columbia River. A venue that typically cost $75,000 just for the rental, not including catering, flowers, or any of the other wedding expenses that Patricia casually mentioned during our first planning meeting. That meeting was held at Patricia's parents' home in the West Hills, a neighborhood where houses started at $3 million and climbed from there. I'd driven my 2019 Honda Civic up the winding roads, feeling increasingly out of place as the houses grew larger and more imposing. The Westmer mansion sat on 4 acres, with views of downtown Portland and Mount Hood in the distance. I parked next to a collection of Mercedes, BMWs, and one Bentley that I assumed belonged to Patricia's father. Inside, everything was coordinated, from the cream-colored furniture to the abstract art that probably cost more than my annual pension. Patricia's mother, Constance Westmer, greeted me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Linda, how wonderful to finally meet you properly. Marcus has told us so much." She hadn't told me what exactly. But the slight pause before properly suggested it wasn't all flattering. The wedding planning conversation quickly revealed the divide between our worlds. Patricia wanted 12 bridesmaids, each wearing custom-designed gowns from a local designer who charged $800 per dress. The reception would serve a 5-course meal prepared by a Michelin-starred chef. The flowers alone were budgeted at $32,000, and the guest list had grown from Patricia's initial estimate of intimate, maybe 200 people, to 473 confirmed attendees. "Of course, as mother of the groom, you'll sit at the head table," Patricia said, consulting her leather-bound wedding planner. "We're thinking a champagne-colored dress for you. Something elegant but not attention-grabbing. I can send you some links to appropriate options." Appropriate options that, when she texted them later, ranged from $1,200 to $3,000. For a single dress I'd wear once, I'd smiled and nodded through that first meeting, but walking back to my Honda, I felt the first stirrings of something I couldn't quite name. Not jealousy exactly, more like invisibility. The sense that I was being managed, contained, kept in my proper place within Patricia's perfectly orchestrated production. The warning signs accumulated slowly over the following months. There was the bridal shower in May, held at a country club where the initiation fee alone was $90,000. I'd arrived with a carefully wrapped KitchenAid mixer, a gift I'd researched extensively, and spent $247 on, stretching my budget but wanting to give something meaningful. Patricia opened it in front of 37 guests, all impeccably dressed women who looked like they'd stepped out of a society magazine. "How thoughtful," she said, her tone making thoughtful sound like a synonym for inadequate. "We'll definitely find somewhere to use this." Later, I overheard her whispering to one of her bridesmaids near the bathroom. "Can you believe she brought a mixer? Like we don't already have 3 Williams-Sonoma ones on our registry." They'd laughed. Not cruelly, but with the casual dismissiveness of people who'd never had to consider whether a $200 gift was within budget. Then there was the rehearsal dinner planning in June. Patricia's parents were hosting at a restaurant called Arden, where the tasting menu started at $175 per person. The guest list for the rehearsal alone was 83 people. "Linda, as Marcus's mother, you'll want to contribute to the rehearsal dinner costs," Constance had said during a phone call. The Westmores traditionally split these expenses with the groom's family. "We're estimating around $32,000 for the evening, so your portion would be $16,000, more than half my annual pension. For one dinner, Constance, that's quite a bit more than I'd budgeted," I'd said carefully. "Perhaps we could discuss a more modest option." The silence on the other end stretched uncomfortably. "Linda, this is Marcus and Patricia's special day. Surely you want to contribute appropriately to your son's happiness." Appropriately. That word again, weaponized to make me feel small and inadequate. I'd ended up telling them I could contribute $5,000, every penny I'd saved over the past year, specifically for wedding expenses. It wasn't enough, according to Constance's disappointed sigh, but it would have to do. But the real problem started in July, when Patricia began rewriting the narrative of Marcus's upbringing. We were at a pre-wedding party, one of those endless social gatherings that Patricia seemed to thrive in, when I overheard her talking to a group of her college friends. "Marcus is amazing," she was saying. "Self-made, really. He worked his way through Stanford and Columbia completely on his own. Such an inspiration, I'd nearly choked on my wine, self-made. Marcus, who'd attended Stanford on a full scholarship I'd helped him secure, by spending 2 years driving him to SAT prep classes 3 times a week. Marcus, whose Columbia Law School tuition of $215,000 over 3 years had been paid entirely by me, draining David's life insurance and forcing me to take out a small second mortgage on our house that I'd only recently paid off. Marcus, who'd lived rent-free in my basement for the first 2 years after law school while he built his career, saving approximately $48,000 in living expenses that allowed him to pay off his smaller undergraduate loans, self-made. The lie was so brazen, so complete, that I'd stood frozen, waiting for Marcus to correct her. But he'd just smiled, accepting the praise, letting his fiancée rewrite history because the truth apparently didn't fit their narrative. I'd pulled Marcus aside later that evening. "Honey, I heard Patricia telling people you paid for school yourself. I think there might have been some miscommunication." He'd looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight. "Mom, it's complicated. Patricia's family has certain expectations about success and independence. It's easier if they think I made it on my own. Easier for whom?" I'd wanted to ask. Instead, I'd said, "But I paid for Columbia. Every semester, $43,000. That's not a small thing to erase." Marcus had sighed, that particular sigh children use when they think their parents are being unreasonable. "I know, Mom, and I'm grateful. But Patricia's world is different. They value self-sufficiency. Can you just let this go? For me, let it go. The first of many requests to diminish myself, to accept rewritten history, to pretend that my sacrifices hadn't shaped the man he'd become. I'd nodded, swallowing my hurt, because that's what mothers do. We make ourselves smaller so our children can shine brighter. August brought more erasure. Patricia was redesigning Marcus's apartment, the one-bedroom in the Pearl District that I'd co-signed the lease for when his credit score wasn't quite high enough 2 years ago. I'd stopped by one afternoon to drop off some family photos I'd had professionally restored, pictures of Marcus as a child, photos of David and me on our wedding day, images from our simple but happy life together. "Oh, Linda," Patricia had said, glancing at the framed photos. "These are sweet, but they don't really fit our aesthetic. We're going for more of a minimalist contemporary look." She gestured around the apartment where every trace of Marcus's history had been eliminated. The bookshelf that held his childhood favorites, the threadbare but beloved armchair David had sat in every evening, the watercolor painting I'd done in an adult education class that Marcus had always said he loved. All gone. Replaced by abstract art from galleries whose names I didn't recognize, furniture that looked uncomfortable but expensive, a curated collection of objects that said nothing about who Marcus actually was. "Where did everything go?" I'd asked. Marcus had looked embarrassed. "Storage unit. Patricia thought we should start fresh." Start fresh by erasing his past, by pretending he'd emerged fully formed into her world without history, without struggle, without a mother who'd sacrificed everything to give him opportunities she'd never had. September arrived with its crisp mornings and changing leaves, beautiful weather for an outdoor wedding. I'd purchased the champagne-colored dress Patricia had recommended, spending $1,800 I couldn't afford because she'd made it clear that anything less expensive would be inappropriate for the venue. I'd scheduled hair and makeup appointments, arranged for a hotel room near the Westmore estate despite the $300 per night rate. Done everything required of a mother of the groom who wanted to support her son's happiness. Then came Tuesday, September 3rd, 11 days before the wedding. The text message that changed everything arrived at 11:47 p.m. I'd been reading in bed, my usual routine, when my phone buzzed. "Mom, Patricia and I talked. Given the tension, we think it's best if you don't come to the wedding. Hope you understand." I read it 3 times, certain I must be misunderstanding. Tension. What tension? I'd been nothing but accommodating, swallowing every slight, accepting every rewrite of history, paying money I couldn't afford, wearing clothes that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I'd made myself as small and unobtrusive as possible, trying desperately not to be a burden on my son's perfect new life. I called him immediately. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. A 3rd time. Finally, a text response. "Mom, I can't talk right now. Patricia is upset. Please just respect our decision. Respect their decision." To uninvite me, his mother, to his wedding via text message sent at midnight. I sat in my dark bedroom, the house David and I had bought 39 years ago, suddenly feeling enormous and empty. The walls held pictures of Marcus at every age, gap-toothed at 7, proud in his high school graduation gown, beaming at his Stanford acceptance. Every photo a testament to a relationship that had apparently been reduced to a text message dismissal. Sleep didn't come that night. Instead, I lay awake, replaying every interaction with Patricia over the past 18 months, looking for the moment when I'd become expendable. The pieces fell into place slowly, like a puzzle I'd been too close to see clearly. The constant suggestions that I was doing things inappropriately. The rewriting of Marcus's history to exclude my contributions. The deliberate distancing at family gatherings. The way Patricia positioned herself between Marcus and me at every opportunity, interpreting his words, managing his responses, controlling the narrative. By dawn, I'd made a decision. If they wanted me gone, I would disappear, but on my terms, in my time, and in a way that would make them realize exactly what they'd thrown away. I spent Wednesday morning at my computer, accessing accounts I'd maintained meticulously for years. Bank statements showing every tuition payment I'd made to Columbia Law School, $43,000 per semester for 6 semesters, total $258,000. Copies of the lease I'd co-signed for Marcus's apartment, my signature guaranteeing $2,400 monthly for the past 2 years, total exposure $57,600. Medical insurance records showing I'd kept Marcus on my teacher's health plan until he was 26, saving him approximately $12,000 in premiums. Tax returns showing the dependency exemption I'd claimed, the education credits I'd used, the detailed financial record of raising a child who now claimed to be self-made. I printed everything, organized it chronologically, and placed it in a manila folder labeled simply Marcus Morrison, The Real Story. Then I did something I'd never done before. I called in sick to my volunteer position at Roosevelt Elementary, where I still helped with reading programs twice a week. I cancelled my Thursday book club. I rescheduled my Friday hair appointment. I cleared my calendar completely and methodically for the next 7 days. Then I turned off my phone. Not airplane mode, not do not disturb, but completely powered down. I wanted them to wonder, to worry, to realize that uninviting someone via text message at midnight had consequences. I drove to the bank Thursday morning and withdrew $5,000 in cash, the money I'd intended to give Marcus and Patricia as a wedding gift. Instead, I would spend it on myself for the first time in decades without guilt or apology. My first stop was the Heathman Hotel in downtown Portland, the beautiful historic property where David and I had celebrated our 20th anniversary. I booked the junior suite for 7 nights at $437 per night. Total, $3,059. Expensive, indulgent, and exactly what I needed. The suite was on the 8th floor with views of the city and mountains beyond. I unpowered my laptop, connected to the hotel's Wi-Fi, and began my real work. Because during those 8 months of being diminished and dismissed, I'd been doing something Patricia would never have expected from a retired elementary school teacher. I'd been documenting everything, every conversation where she'd lied about Marcus's background. I'd recorded dates and witnesses. Every social media post where she'd portrayed their relationship as entirely self-built, I'd screenshot and saved. Every time she told someone Marcus had worked his way through Stanford and Columbia completely on his own, I'd noted the time, place, and audience. What I discovered during my week of research would destroy the carefully constructed facade Patricia had built. Because I wasn't the only person she'd been lying to. Her manipulation ran deeper than I'd imagined, and the secrets she'd been keeping would cost her far more than my absence at her wedding. The first revelation came Thursday afternoon while I was sorting through old emails. I'd been looking for the original Columbia Law School acceptance letter to add to my documentation when I noticed something in Marcus's email from March, the one announcing his engagement. He'd written, "Patricia is incredible, Mom. She's been so supportive, especially during the firm politics stuff. I don't know what I'd do without her. Firm politics." I'd brushed past that phrase in March, too excited about the engagement to question it. But now, sitting in my hotel suite with nothing but time, I searched my memory for context. What firm, politics, had Marcus been dealing with in March? I opened my laptop and searched for Patterson and Associates News, March 2024, and found the answer in a Portland Business Journal article dated March 8th. Junior partner under investigation at Patterson and Associates, the headline read. Marcus Morrison, 32, recently promoted junior partner at Portland's prestigious Patterson and Associates, is currently under internal review regarding allegations of improperly billing client hours. Sources within the firm suggest Morrison may have inflated billable hours on several corporate accounts. potentially overcharging clients by as much as $47,000 over an 18-month period. I read the article 3 times, my hands shaking. Marcus, under investigation for billing fraud. Why hadn't he told me? The article was dated 2 weeks before his engagement announcement. He'd been facing a potential ethics investigation and possible disbarment, and he'd hidden it from me completely while proposing to Patricia Westmore, whose family connections in Portland's business community could make or destroy a young lawyer's reputation. I searched further, finding a follow-up article from April 12th. Morrison cleared of billing allegations at Patterson and Associates. After a thorough internal review, Patterson and Associates has cleared junior partner Marcus Morrison of allegations regarding improper billing practices. The firm's senior partners issued a statement calling the allegations unfounded and praising Morrison's dedication and integrity. Cleared. But how? And why had the investigation been dropped so suddenly, just weeks after his engagement to a Westmore? I pulled up the Patterson and Associates website and clicked through to their corporate clients page. There, listed among dozens of other businesses, was Westmore Properties LLC, represented by Patterson and Associates since 2019. Annual estimated legal fees based on the firm's billing structure, between $800,000 and $1.2 million annually. The timeline crystallized. March 1st through March 7th, Marcus under investigation for billing fraud, facing potential disbarment and career destruction. March 8th, Portland Business Journal publishes investigation story. March 10th, Marcus proposes to Patricia Westmore at an elaborate restaurant dinner that, according to his Instagram post, included a private violinist and champagne that cost $400 per bottle. March 20th, investigation quietly dropped. April the 12th, firm issues statement clearing Marcus completely. Patricia's family's legal business, worth approximately $1 million annually to Patterson and Associates, had made Marcus's problems disappear. The engagement wasn't a love story. It was a transaction, and I'd been so focused on trying to fit into Patricia's world that I'd missed the obvious signs of my son's desperation and ethical compromise. Friday brought the second revelation, this one even more damaging. I'd been scrolling through Patricia's Instagram, something I'd done occasionally over the past 18 months, marveling at her perfectly curated life. Everything was coordinated. The outfits, the locations, the captions full of inspirational quotes about love and partnership. But on Friday, looking at her posts with fresh eyes and the distance of my week-long disappearance, I noticed something I'd previously overlooked. Her engagement ring, the massive diamond Marcus had supposedly saved for months to buy, according to the story Patricia told at their engagement party. "He's been putting away money for a year," she'd said tearfully. "Every bonus, every extra dollar, because he wanted to give me something that reflected our love." The ring was stunning, a 3-carat emerald-cut diamond in a platinum setting that caught light like a disco ball. I'd felt proud that my son could afford such a symbol of his success and devotion. Except the ring appeared in Patricia's Instagram posts from February, a full month before the engagement. Not on her ring finger, but visible in a photo she'd posted from a girls' trip to Cabo on February 14th. In the picture, 5 women in bikinis held champagne glasses. And there, on Patricia's right-hand 4th finger, was the unmistakable emerald-cut diamond. The caption read, "Valentine's with my besties, celebrating love and new beginnings in February. Engagement in March. Marcus under investigation for billing fraud throughout February." I screenshot the photo and zoomed in. It was definitely the same ring, the same platinum setting with its distinctive twisted band. Patricia had already had the engagement ring in February, before Marcus proposed. Possibly before he even knew he would propose. I searched her social media more carefully, going back through every post from January and February. And there it was again, the ring on her right hand in a January restaurant photo captioned, "Pre-birthday dinner with Mom." And once more in a December photo from Christmas at the Westmore estate, barely visible but definitely present on Patricia's right hand as she held a champagne glass. Patricia had owned the engagement ring for months, possibly since December, long before Marcus saved for a year to buy it for her. Long before his proposal in March, long before his investigation began, but certainly while whatever situation was developing that would lead to those allegations. She'd been planning this engagement, possessing the physical symbol of it, while Marcus was facing career destruction, and somehow his proposal and her acceptance had perfectly coincided with making his legal problems disappear. The third revelation came Saturday, and it changed everything I thought I knew about Patricia Westmore. I'd been sitting in the hotel restaurant having breakfast, my first real meal out in months, when an older woman at the next table was talking loudly on her phone. "Yes, Patricia Westmore," she was saying. "The one marrying that lawyer next week. My daughter worked with her at Summit Marketing before she got fired." I froze, my coffee cup halfway to my mouth. Fired. Patricia had told everyone she'd left Summit Marketing to pursue new opportunities in March, the same month as Marcus's engagement. I'd attended a goodbye party she'd hosted where she'd toasted to new chapters and exciting changes. The woman continued her phone conversation, oblivious to my eavesdropping. Embezzlement, supposedly, or maybe it was fraud. Something with company credit cards. My daughter said Patricia charged about $90,000 in personal expenses over 18 months and claimed they were business development costs. Summit was going to press charges, but the Westmores paid everything back plus damages. Some kind of confidential settlement, $90,000. Patricia had been fired for essentially stealing from her employer, a fact she'd concealed by reframing her departure as voluntary. And her family had paid to make the legal problems disappear, just like they'd apparently done for Marcus. Two people with ethics violations, career problems, and secrets they desperately needed to hide. No wonder they'd found each other. I returned to my hotel suite and dug deeper. Summit Marketing's LinkedIn page showed Patricia's employment ending March 2024, exactly as she'd said. But the Oregon Secretary of State's business registry showed something interesting. A case filing from February 2024, Summit Marketing Solutions, LLC versus Patricia Ann Westmore, civil complaint. Case number CV 2024-01843. I couldn't access the sealed complaint details, but the case status showed settled. Confidential agreement, February 28, 2024, one day before Marcus's investigation became public, 2 weeks before his proposal. 1 month before both their career problems miraculously disappeared. The patterns were unmistakable. Patricia and Marcus had both been facing professional disasters in February. By late March, after their engagement, both situations had been resolved quietly. Patricia's family's money and connections had saved them both, buying silence from Summit Marketing and influence at Patterson and Associates, and I, the retired elementary school teacher who'd sacrificed everything to pay for Marcus's education, who'd co-signed his leases and kept him on my insurance and given him every opportunity to build the career he'd nearly destroyed, I was now an embarrassment. Someone to be uninvited via text message because I didn't fit the narrative of two self-made professionals building an empire together. Sunday afternoon, I finally turned on my phone. It powered up slowly and immediately began buzzing with notifications. 73 missed calls, 46 text messages, 12 voicemails. I scrolled through them chronologically, watching the progression from annoyance to concern to panic. Wednesday at 8:47 a.m. Marcus, Mom, I know you're upset, but you need to answer your phone. Wednesday at 2:15 p.m. Marcus, this is ridiculous. Call me back. Thursday at 9:03 a.m. Marcus, Mom, where are you? Are you okay? Thursday at 6:34 p.m. Marcus, I'm starting to worry. Please just let me know you're safe. Friday at 11:21 a.m. from a number I didn't recognize, but presumed was Patricia. Linda, this behavior is exactly why we made our decision. You're being manipulative and childish. Friday at 7:45 p.m. Marcus, I filed a missing person report. Police are looking for you. If you don't respond, I'm coming to the house. Saturday at 3:17 a.m. Marcus, Police checked the house. You're not there. Your car is gone. Mom, please, I need to know you're okay. Saturday at 10:42 a.m. Voicemail from Detective Sarah Chen, Portland PD. Ms. Morrison, this is Detective Chen. Your son filed a missing person report. We need you to contact us to confirm your well-being. Please call 503-555-0147 as soon as possible. Saturday at 4:55 p.m., Marcus, voicemail, his voice breaking. Mom, I'm sorry. About everything. About the text. About uninviting you. About all of it. I was wrong. Just please come home. Please let me know you're alive. I can't. The message cut off, but I could hear him crying. Sunday at 8:11 a.m., Marcus. Day 5 of not knowing if my mother is alive or dead. If you're reading these, if you're okay, please just send me one word. Anything. I'm losing my mind. Part of me wanted to respond immediately, to ease his worry. But another part, the part that had spent decades making myself smaller, accommodating, easier, that part needed him to sit with this fear a little longer. Needed him to understand what it felt like to be casually discarded. Instead, I called Detective Chen. Detective, this is Linda Morrison. I understand my son filed a missing person report. Her relief was audible. Ms. Morrison, thank you for calling. Are you safe? Do you need assistance? I'm perfectly safe. I'm staying at the Heathman Hotel. I turned off my phone for a few days because I needed space from my family. So there's no emergency, no danger, nothing we need to be concerned about? Nothing except my son's guilty conscience. I gave her my hotel information, confirmed I was staying voluntarily, and authorized her to close the missing person case. Ms. Morrison, she said carefully, I should tell you your son has been beside himself. He's called the station 17 times in 4 days. Good, I said, and meant it. Perhaps he'll think twice before uninviting people via text message at midnight. I ended the call and immediately received a text from Marcus. Police just called. You're at the Heathman? I'm coming there right now. No, I texted back. I'll come to you tomorrow, 2 p.m. at your apartment. Patricia should be there too. It's time we all had an honest conversation. Monday morning, September 9th, 5 days before the wedding that I would not be attending. I woke early, showered and dressed carefully in one of my usual outfits, comfortable black pants and a simple blue sweater. Not the expensive champagne dress hanging in my closet at home. Not the carefully curated image Patricia had tried to impose. Just me, Linda Morrison, retired teacher, widow, mother, who'd sacrificed everything for her son. I checked out of the Heathman at noon, leaving behind 7 days of peace and clarity. My Honda Civic was still in the hotel garage where I'd parked it Wednesday morning. I loaded my small suitcase, the manila folder of documentation, and my laptop, then drove toward the Pearl District, toward the confrontation that would expose every lie Patricia had told and every secret she'd been keeping. At exactly 2 p.m., I knocked on Marcus's apartment door. He opened it immediately, like he'd been standing there waiting. His face was haggard, with dark circles under his eyes and stubble that suggested he hadn't shaved in days. Mom, his voice broke on the word. Behind him, Patricia stood in the living room, her arms crossed, her expression somewhere between angry and defensive. She dressed for this meeting in what I now recognized as her armor. Designer jeans that probably cost $600. A crisp white blouse, her hair and makeup perfect despite the obvious tension in her shoulders. Hello, Marcus, Patricia. I walked in without waiting for an invitation, setting my purse and the manila folder on their glass coffee table. I believe we need to have a conversation, a real one, without lies or carefully managed narratives. Marcus looked like he wanted to hug me, but wasn't sure if he was allowed. Mom, I'm so sorry. The text was wrong. I should have called, should have talked to you face to face. You should have never uninvited me at all, I said calmly. But that's actually the least important issue we need to address. I opened the manila folder, pulling out the first document. Let's start with some facts. Patricia, you've been telling people that Marcus is self-made, that he worked his way through Stanford and Columbia completely on his own. Is that correct? She glanced at Marcus before answering. I may have used that phrasing, yes. Marcus is extremely hard-working and I paid for Columbia, I interrupted, placing the tuition receipts on the coffee table. $258,000, $43,000 per semester for 6 semesters. Every payment made from my checking account at First National Bank. Would you like to see the bank statements? Patricia's jaw tightened. Linda, I don't see how this is relevant to... It's relevant because you've built your entire relationship on lies, I said. You've rewritten Marcus's history to make him fit into your world. But the truth matters, and I have documentation for all of it. I placed more papers on the table. The lease co-signature documents, the medical insurance records, the tax returns showing my dependency claims, the complete financial history of raising Marcus Morrison from birth through law school. This is what self-made actually looks like, I said. It looks like a mother who worked 41 years as a teacher, who took out a second mortgage on her house to pay for law school, who co-signed leases and kept her adult son on her insurance and gave him every possible advantage. Marcus was staring at the documents, his face pale. Mom, I never meant to diminish what you did. I'm grateful for everything. Are you? I pulled out my phone and opened Patricia's Instagram. Then why did you let Patricia post this in June? I showed them the post, a photo of them at some charity gala with the caption, "So proud of this self-made man who worked his way up from nothing to build an incredible career. Proof that hard work and dedication pay off. Whose goals, durch self-made stupowder couple. From nothing," I read aloud. That's what my 41 years of teaching bought you, Marcus? Nothing. Patricia finally found her voice. This is about your ego, isn't it, Linda? You can't stand that Marcus has moved on, that he's building a life that doesn't revolve around you. No, I said quietly. This is about truth. And since we're being honest, let's talk about your truth, Patricia. I pulled out my laptop and opened it to the screenshots I'd compiled. Patricia's Instagram photos from December, January, and February, showing her engagement ring months before the supposed proposal. Interesting jewelry choices, I observed. That's quite a coincidence, wearing your engagement ring for 3 months before getting engaged. Patricia's face went white. Marcus looked between us, confused. What are you talking about? Your fiancée has been wearing her engagement ring since December, I said. Long before you proposed in March, long before you supposedly saved for a year to buy it, which suggests this engagement was planned, possibly orchestrated, for reasons that had nothing to do with love. That's insane, Patricia said, but her voice wavered. Show him the photos, Patricia, I said. Show Marcus how you've been wearing his grandmother's ring reset since Christmas, because that is my mother-in-law's diamond, isn't it? The one from David's family that I mentioned you admired back in December when you saw it in my jewelry box. The silence was deafening. Marcus turned to Patricia. Is that true? Is that Grandma Morrison's diamond? Patricia's carefully maintained composure finally cracked. She offered to give me jewelry. I just had it reset into something more modern. It was supposed to be a surprise for you. I offered to let you borrow my mother-in-law's pearls for the wedding, I corrected. I never offered you her engagement diamond, but you took it anyway, had it reset, and used it as a prop for 3 months while you waited for Marcus to propose on your schedule. This is ridiculous, Patricia said, but she was backing toward the window, away from the evidence on the coffee table. Let's talk about what else is ridiculous, I continued, pulling out the printed Portland Business Journal articles, like the billing fraud investigation. Marcus, when were you going to tell me you were under review for improperly charging clients $47,000? His face went from pale to gray. How do you know about that? It was in the Business Journal. Not exactly hidden, though you certainly tried to hide it from me. I placed the articles on the table. Investigation announced March 8th. You proposed March 10th. Investigation quietly dropped March 20th. Quite a timeline. The investigation was baseless, Marcus said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. They cleared me completely. They cleared you after you got engaged to the daughter of Patterson and Associates' $1 million client, I said. Westmore Properties pays your firm between $800,000 and $1.2 million annually in legal fees. That's quite an incentive to make your problems disappear. Patricia stepped forward. Are you suggesting Marcus's proposal was some kind of business transaction? That's offensive, and I'm stating facts, I interrupted. Marcus was facing potential disbarment in early March. He proposed to you on March 10th. By March 20th, all charges were dropped. If you have an alternative explanation for that timeline, I'd love to hear it. The apartment was silent except for the hum of traffic outside. Marcus sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. It wasn't like that, Mom. I love Patricia. The investigation and the engagement weren't connected. Perhaps not consciously, I said. But let's talk about what else happened in March. Patricia, you want to explain why you left Summit Marketing? Her face went rigid. I told everyone I was pursuing new opportunities. You were fired for embezzlement, I said flatly. $90,000 in personal expenses, charged to company credit cards over 18 months. Summit was going to press charges until your family paid restitution and damages. Case settled February 28th, one day before Marcus's investigation became public. Patricia's mask of composure shattered completely. How dare you investigate me? Who do you think you are? I'm a mother protecting her son from a woman who's been lying about everything, I said. And I'm a retired teacher who knows how to research. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the Oregon Secretary of State case filing? Summit Marketing Solutions versus Patricia Ann Westmore? It's public record, though the settlement details are sealed. Marcus stood up slowly, staring at his fiancée. Patricia, is this true? Were you fired for stealing? It was a misunderstanding, she said quickly. The company credit card policy was unclear. My father resolved it as a gesture of goodwill, not because I did anything wrong. $90,000 is quite a misunderstanding, I observed. 18 months of charging personal expenses and claiming they were business development. That's not unclear policy. That's fraud. You don't know what you're talking about, Patricia snapped, but tears were forming in her perfectly lined eyes. You're just a bitter old woman who can't stand that her son has moved on. This is pathetic, Linda, truly pathetic. What's pathetic, I said quietly, is two people with ethics violations finding each other and deciding the solution was to lie about everything, to rewrite history, to hide your mistakes, to build a relationship on a foundation of secrets and my stolen family heirloom. Marcus was looking between us, pieces clicking into place. The engagement ring really is Grandma's diamond. Look at Patricia's Instagram from December through February, I said, pulling up the photos on my laptop. Same ring, different finger, worn for months before you proposed. She's been planning this engagement since at least December, Marcus. Probably since she got fired and needed a respectable exit strategy that her family's money could support. Patricia was crying now, mascara running despite its expensive waterproof claims. I love Marcus. Whatever you think about the timing, whatever mistakes I made at Summit, I genuinely love your son. Do you? I asked. Or do you love what he represents? A junior partner at a prestigious firm. Someone whose career problems your family could solve. Someone who made you look like you'd landed well, despite your own professional disaster. That's not fair, Marcus said, but his voice was uncertain. Isn't it? I pulled out the final documents, the ones I'd saved for last. Screenshots of text messages between Patricia and someone named Madison, messages I'd found on an old phone Marcus had left at my house months ago and I'd backed up. Thinking I was helping preserve his data, I'd only looked at them this week during my research binge at the Heathman. Marcus, do you know who Madison Reeves is? I asked. He shook his head, confused. She's one of Patricia's bridesmaids, and according to these text messages from April, she was helping Patricia plan how to manage the Morrison situation. I read from the screenshots. Madison to Patricia. April 12th. Have you figured out what to do about Marcus's mom? The rehearsal dinner cost thing was brilliant. Make her look cheap without technically excluding her. Patricia's response, still working on it. The goal is to make her so uncomfortable she excludes herself. Can't have her poverty showing at our wedding. My mother would die. The words hung in the air like a bomb detonating in slow motion. Marcus grabbed the laptop, reading the messages himself. His face went from grey to red. "Patricia, did you write this?" She was sobbing openly now. "It was just venting. I didn't mean Madison and I were just... It was taken out of context. The context," I said, "is that you've been systematically pushing me out since the beginning, making me feel inadequate, rewriting Marcus's history to exclude me, escalating costs to put me in impossible positions, all building toward the moment where you could uninvite me and claim it was about tension rather than your deliberate campaign to erase me." I pulled out more messages, reading them aloud. "Patricia to Madison, May 3rd. She brought a KitchenAid mixer to my shower. Like we're registered at Target or something. How do I get Marcus to understand his mother is embarrassing? Madison, just keep pointing out the differences. Eventually he'll see she doesn't fit. Patricia, the wedding is my chance. Once we're married, I can limit contact to holidays only. Maybe not even that." Marcus was reading the messages on my laptop, scrolling through months of conversations between Patricia and her bridesmaid. His hands were shaking. There are hundreds of these. Planning how to exclude Mom, laughing about her clothes, her car, her house. "You called her Marcus's charity case in June. I was venting to a friend," Patricia said desperately. "Everyone complains about their in-laws. It doesn't mean anything. It means everything," Marcus said quietly. His voice had gone flat, emotionless. "It means you've been lying to me about who you are, about why you wanted to marry me, about everything." "That's not true," Patricia pleaded. "I love you. The investigation stuff, the summit thing, none of that matters. We can work through this." "Can we work through you stealing my grandmother's diamond?" he asked. "Can we work through you systematically humiliating my mother for 18 months? Can we work through the fact that our engagement happened exactly when both our careers were imploding, and your family's money and connections could save us both?" He stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the Portland skyline. When he turned back, his face was composed, but his eyes were wet. "The wedding is off." "Marcus, no," Patricia rushed toward him. "We can fix this. Your mother is just trying to manipulate you. Can't you see what she's doing?" "What I see," he said, "is that I became someone I don't recognize. Someone who let his fiancée erase his mother because it was easier than standing up for what was right. Someone who accepted her lies because they made me look better. Someone who uninvited his own mother to his wedding via text message at midnight because his fiancée was upset." He turned to me. "Mom, I don't have words for how sorry I am. You paid for everything. You sacrificed everything. And I repaid you by being ashamed of you, by letting Patricia rewrite our history, by treating you like an inconvenience." His voice cracked. "I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't even deserve to be your son. Marcus Michael Morrison," I said firmly, using his full name like I hadn't since he was a child in trouble. "You made terrible choices. You let someone else define your worth, and in doing so, you forgot your own values. But you're still my son, and sons make mistakes. The question is, what you do next." Patricia was backing toward the door, makeup destroyed, designer clothes rumpled, the perfect facade completely shattered. "This is insane. You're both insane. Marcus, if you cancel this wedding, my family will..." "Will what?" he interrupted. "We'll take away the connections that made my investigation disappear. We'll stop giving business to Patterson and Associates. Go ahead. I'll face whatever consequences come from standing up for my mother." "You don't mean that," she said. "Once you calm down, you'll realize your mother has manipulated this entire situation. She's been planning this for months, gathering evidence, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy us. Can't you see how calculated this is?" "Yes," I said. "It was calculated. It was methodical. It was exactly what a retired teacher does when someone threatens her family. I documented everything because I knew the truth would matter eventually. And I disappeared for a week because I wanted you both to understand what it feels like to be casually discarded." Marcus was pulling the engagement ring off Patricia's finger. The ring that contained my mother-in-law's diamond, reset without permission, worn as a prop for months. "This goes back to Mom, and you need to leave. Now." The wedding is in 5 days, Patricia said, her voice rising to a near scream. 473 confirmed guests. The Westmore estate is set up. The flowers are ordered. The dress is fitted. You can't just cancel. Watch me, Marcus said. He opened the apartment door. Get out, Patricia. We're done. She grabbed her purse, stumbled toward the door, then turned back one last time. You'll regret this, Marcus. Both of you. My family doesn't forget. Your career at Patterson and Associates is over. Your reputation is destroyed. All because your mother couldn't handle not being the center of attention. No, I said calmly. All because you built a relationship on lies and thought nobody would notice. That's not my fault, Patricia. That's yours. She left, her designer heels clicking angrily down the hallway. The door closed behind her, and the apartment fell into heavy silence. Marcus sank back onto the couch, the engagement ring still in his hand. I need to make some calls. The wedding venue, the caterers, the guests. God, Mom, there are 473 people expecting a wedding on Saturday. There are 473 people who are about to learn an important lesson about building relationships on truth rather than image, I said. And you're going to tell them exactly why the wedding is cancelled. No vague statements about unforeseen circumstances. The truth. That my fiancée was fired for embezzlement and I was under investigation for billing fraud and we both lied about everything. He laughed bitterly. That's going to be a fun conversation. That you and Patricia built a relationship during professional crises and lost sight of what actually matters, I corrected. That you're taking responsibility for your mistakes and choosing integrity over convenience. That's the conversation. He nodded slowly, then looked at me with eyes that reminded me of the little boy who used to tell me everything. How did you figure it all out? The timeline, the investigation, Patricia's firing, all of it. I had a week with nothing to do but research and think, I said. And I'm a better investigator than Patricia gave me credit for. Retired teachers know how to find information, how to connect dots, how to see patterns. We spend decades reading between the lines with children who lie. Adults aren't much different. The messages between her and Madison, he said. I left my old phone at your house in July. You backed it up? I thought I was being helpful, I admitted. Preserving your data in case you needed it. I only looked at the messages this week when I was trying to understand what I'd done wrong. Turned out I'd done nothing wrong except be an easy target for someone who needed a scapegoat. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, turning the ring over in his hands. Grandma Morrison's diamond. I remember this from when I was little. Dad proposed to you with this ring. He did, I said softly. August 1979 at Laurelhurst Park with a picnic basket and wildflowers because we couldn't afford anything fancy. That diamond represented 43 years of partnership, of building a life together despite not having money, of choosing each other every day, and Patricia just took it. She took a lot of things, I said, but things can be returned. What matters is that you're willing to face the truth now. He placed the ring carefully in my hand. I'm sorry, Mom, for all of it, for uninviting you, for being ashamed of you, for letting Patricia erase our history. You deserve so much better from me. Yes, I agreed, I did. But we're here now, and you're making the right choice. That's what matters. What do I do about Patterson and Associates? He asked. The Westmore family is going to pull their business. That's $1 million annually. The firm will blame me. Maybe, I said. Or maybe you tell your senior partners the truth about why the engagement ended, about Patricia's embezzlement at Summit, about how the investigation into your billing was dropped suspiciously fast after you got engaged to a Westmore, about building professional relationships on truth rather than convenient connections. They might fire me anyway. They might, I agreed. Or they might respect you for having integrity. Either way, you'll know you did the right thing. He nodded, then stood up and walked to his bookshelf. The bookshelf that Patricia had wanted to remove because it held his childhood favorites. He pulled down a photo album, one I recognized from his teenage years. I'm putting this back out, he said. And the chair that was Dad's, and your watercolor painting. Everything Patricia made me hide because it didn't fit her aesthetic. Marcus, no, Mom. I'm done pretending to be someone I'm not. I'm the son of a teacher and a postal worker who sacrificed everything so I could go to Stanford and Columbia. That's not something to hide. That's something to be proud of. He spent the next hour making phone calls while I sat on the couch, listening to him explain over and over that the wedding was cancelled. Some conversations were brief and professional. Others were more difficult, particularly the one with Constance Westmore. Mrs. Westmore, I appreciate everything your family has done, but Patricia and I aren't getting married. Yes, I understand the deposits. I'm aware of the contracts. Ma'am, with respect, your daughter embezzled $90,000 from her previous employer and lied about it. She also orchestrated a systematic campaign to exclude my mother from our lives. I'm sorry you feel that way. No, I won't be changing my mind. I'll return all the Westmore family items by Friday. Goodbye, Mrs. Westmore. He ended the call and looked at me. She said Patterson and Associates can expect Westmore Properties to find new legal representation. Also, that I've destroyed Patricia's reputation, and their family will make sure everyone in Portland society knows what kind of person I am. What kind of person are you? I asked. Someone who finally chose his mother over his career, he said, even if it costs me everything. By evening, the word had spread through Portland's social network. Marcus's phone buzzed constantly with texts from colleagues, friends, wedding guests demanding explanations. Patricia's Instagram went private after several people commented on her posts asking if the wedding was really cancelled. The Portland Business Journal called Marcus for comment. He declined but issued a brief statement. Patricia Westmore and I have ended our engagement. I take full responsibility for decisions I made during a difficult period in my career and apologize to everyone affected by this situation. I'm committed to rebuilding my professional reputation based on merit and integrity rather than convenient connections. By Tuesday morning, September 10th, the story had taken on a life of its own. Someone, probably one of Patricia's disgruntled bridesmaids, had leaked details to a society blogger who wrote, "Westmore Morrison wedding cancelled days before ceremony." Sources say groom's mother exposed secrets about both parties that led to dramatic breakup. Westmore Properties pulling million-dollar business from Patterson and Associates. Marcus received a call from Patterson and Associates senior partner Harold Patterson at 8:15 a.m., requesting an immediate meeting. He came back 3 hours later, looking exhausted but oddly relieved. They suspended me pending a full ethics review, he said. But it's not because of the Westmore business. It's because they want to actually investigate the original billing allegations properly. No family connections, no shortcuts. Just a real investigation. How do you feel about that? I asked. Terrified, he admitted, but also like I can finally breathe. Whatever happens, it'll be based on what I actually did, not who I'm connected to. Wednesday brought an unexpected visitor. Detective Sarah Chen, the officer who'd handled Marcus's missing person report, stopped by my house where I'd finally returned after my week at the Heathman. "Ms. Morrison," she said when I opened the door. "I wanted to check in, make sure everything resolved okay with your family situation." "It did, thank you. My son and I are working through some things, but we're much better now." She hesitated, then said, "I have a daughter, 26 years old, getting married next year. Your son's missing person report, the panic in his voice when he called. It made me think about what really matters. I hope you two can work things out. We already are," I said. Sometimes people need to lose something to understand its value. Thursday, September 12th, 2 days before the wedding that wouldn't happen, Patricia showed up at Marcus's apartment. He called me immediately, asking if I could come over as a witness to whatever she wanted to say. I arrived to find her sitting in Marcus's living room, looking nothing like the polished woman I'd known for 18 months. No makeup, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a Stanford sweatshirt that probably belonged to Marcus. "Linda," she said when she saw me. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying for days. "I owe you an apology. Several apologies, actually. I sat down across from her, waiting. I was terrible to you, she continued. From the beginning, I saw you as an obstacle, rather than as Marcus's mother. I wanted him to fit into my world, and you represented everything that didn't fit. The modest house, the teaching career, the Honda Civic. I thought if I could just erase those parts of his history, nobody would know he came from a different background than mine. Why did it matter? I asked. Why did you care so much about Marcus's background? She was quiet for a long moment. Because I was ashamed of mine. My family has money, but we're not old Portland society. My grandfather was a construction worker who bought cheap properties and got lucky during the development boom. We're 3 generations away from working class, trying desperately to pretend we've always been wealthy. I saw Marcus's education, his Stanford degree, his position at Patterson as better than anything I'd achieved. So you stole his story, I said. Made him self-made, so his success was even more impressive. Yes, and I made you invisible because acknowledging you meant acknowledging that Marcus needed help, that he wasn't born into success. I was projecting my own shame about my family's origins onto yours. She looked at Marcus. I did love you. I still do. But I loved the version of you I created more than the real person. And that's not fair. To you or to your mother? What about the embezzlement? Marcus asked. Was that true? Patricia nodded miserably. I got in over my head trying to maintain appearances. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, the right gym membership, the right hair salon. I was making $72,000 a year, but spending like I made $200,000. So I used the company card and told myself I'd pay it back eventually. I never meant for it to go as far as $90,000, but it did, I said. And instead of taking responsibility, you let your family pay to make it disappear. They insisted, she said. My mother said a scandal would ruin our family reputation. So they paid Summit, made me sign an NDA, and told everyone I was pursuing new opportunities. I hated lying, but I didn't know how to tell the truth. And my billing investigation? Marcus asked. Did you know about that when I proposed? She looked down at her hands. I knew you were stressed about work. I knew there were problems at the firm. I didn't know specifics until after we got engaged, and your senior partner mentioned how fortunate it was that Westmore Properties was such a valuable client. That's when I realized my family's business had influenced the outcome. So you said nothing, Marcus said, because it benefited us both. I said nothing because I was a coward, Patricia corrected. I'd already lost my job, my reputation at Summit, my sense of myself as an honest person. I couldn't stand to lose you too. So I let the lies continue and told myself we'd build something real eventually. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of traffic outside. Finally, I spoke. Patricia, I appreciate your honesty now, but honesty after you're caught isn't the same as integrity. You only apologized because you got exposed, not because you realized what you were doing was wrong. I know, she said, and I don't expect forgiveness from either of you. I just wanted you to know that you were right about everything. The manipulation, the lies, the stolen ring, all of it. You were right and I was wrong, she stood up, wiping her eyes. The wedding venue will be available on Saturday if you want to do something else with it. My family paid for everything, and the deposits are non-refundable anyway. Maybe you could use it for a family gathering or something. Patricia, Marcus said as she headed for the door. What will you do now? She smiled sadly. Get therapy. Look for a new job, probably not in Portland. Face the consequences of my choices. Learn to live with truth instead of carefully constructed images. Basically, grow up. After she left, Marcus and I sat in silence for several minutes. Do you believe her? He finally asked. About the apology, about understanding what she did wrong? I believe she understands she got caught, I said. Whether she truly comprehends the damage she caused, I don't know. That's something she'll have to work out for herself. Mom. Yes? What should I do about Saturday? Patricia's right that the venue is paid for. It seems wasteful to let it just sit empty. I thought for a moment, then smiled. How many people did you uninvite to the wedding? All 473 guests received cancellation notices. then send 473 new invitations, not to a wedding, to a celebration of truth and family. Tell them what really happened, why the wedding was cancelled, and invite them to join us in honoring relationships built on honesty instead of image. Saturday, September 14th, the day that was supposed to be Marcus's wedding, dawned clear and beautiful. The Westmore estate was decorated exactly as Patricia had planned. $32,000 worth of flowers, elegant table settings, a 5-course meal prepared by a Michelin-starred chef. But instead of a wedding, the 473 guests who actually showed up, curiosity is a powerful motivator, witnessed something entirely different. Marcus stood at the altar where he would have exchanged vows with Patricia. I stood beside him, wearing not the champagne-colored dress Patricia had mandated, but a simple blue dress I'd worn to my own wedding 43 years ago. It still fit barely, and it represented everything Marcus and I were reclaiming: history, truth, the value of lasting things over temporary appearances. "Thank you all for coming," Marcus began, his voice steady despite obvious nerves. "I know you expected a wedding today. Instead, you're getting something more important, the truth." He spent the next 20 minutes explaining everything. His billing investigation, Patricia's embezzlement, the convenient timing of their engagement, the lies about his background, the systematic exclusion of his mother. He showed copies of the documents I'd compiled, read excerpts from the text messages between Patricia and her bridesmaids, explained how they'd both chosen image over integrity. "I uninvited my mother to this wedding via text message," he said, his voice breaking. "The woman who paid for my education, who sacrificed everything so I could have opportunities she never had. I erased her from my life because my fiancée was embarrassed by her Honda Civic and her modest house and her teaching career. And I let it happen because I was more concerned with fitting into a world I didn't belong in than honoring the woman who made that world possible." He turned to me. "Mom, you taught second grade for 41 years. You taught kids to read, to think, to value honesty and kindness. And I forgot every lesson you ever taught me. I'm sorry. In front of 400 witnesses, I'm sorry." I took his hand. "And I forgive you, because that's what mothers do. We forgive our children when they lose their way. We wait for them to find themselves again. And we celebrate when they choose truth over convenience." The reception that followed wasn't the elegant affair Patricia had planned. Instead of assigned seating and careful social hierarchies, people mixed freely. Former colleagues from Roosevelt Elementary sat with Patterson and Associates partners. My book club friends chatted with judges and lawyers. Working-class families who'd watched Marcus grow up shared tables with Portland society figures who'd come out of curiosity and stayed out of respect. Harold Patterson, the senior partner from Marcus's firm, pulled me aside during dinner. "Ms. Morrison, I wanted you to know we completed our ethics investigation. Marcus's billing irregularities were real, but relatively minor, about $4,000 over 18 months, not the $47,000 initially alleged. Most of it was legitimate confusion about how to allocate hours on complex cases. What does that mean for his future at the firm?" I asked. "It means he's suspended without pay for 6 months and required to complete ethics training. But he keeps his license and his job. What he did today, exposing his own mistakes publicly, choosing integrity over easy solutions, that showed us more about his character than any investigation could." By evening, as the sun set over the Columbia River, Marcus and I stood on the Westmore estate terrace where he was supposed to have taken wedding photos with Patricia. "You know what's funny?" he said. "I feel lighter than I have in 2 years. Like I've been carrying this weight of trying to be someone I'm not and finally putting it down. That's because truth weighs less than lies," I said. "Lies require constant maintenance, constant energy to keep them consistent. Truth just is. You can rest in it. What happens now?" he asked. "Now you rebuild," I said. "You serve your suspension. You complete your ethics training. You reconstruct your career based on actual merit instead of convenient connections. It won't be as fast or as easy as the Patterson track, but it'll be real. And you? I go back to my life, my book club, my volunteer work at Roosevelt, my modest house with my Honda Civic, the life I've always had. Except now I know my son isn't ashamed of it. He hugged me then. The first real hug we'd shared in months, maybe years. I'm proud of you, Mom. Proud of everything you did for me, everything you sacrificed. I'm sorry it took nearly losing you to realize how much you mattered. 6 months later, I received a package at my house. Inside was a small velvet box containing my mother-in-law's diamond ring, professionally cleaned and reset in its original 1955 setting. The note read, "Mom, I had this restored to how Grandma Morrison originally wore it. No more modern updates, no more trying to make old things fit new expectations. Just the real thing, valuable because of its history, not despite it. I love you, Marcus." I slipped the ring onto my right hand, where my mother-in-law had worn it for 43 years before passing it to me. The diamond caught the light from my kitchen window, creating small rainbows on the wall. David would have appreciated the poetry. A stone that had survived decades, witnessed 2 marriages, been stolen and recovered, and ultimately returned to where it belonged. Marcus called that evening. "Did you get the package?" "I did. It's beautiful. Thank you. I have some other news. Patterson and Associates offered me a position as the firm's ethics compliance officer. It's not partner track and the pay is less than I made before, but it means I'll be ensuring other young lawyers don't make the mistakes I did." "That's wonderful, honey. And I met someone. Her name is Rachel. She's a social worker. Drives a 10-year-old Subaru, lives in a studio apartment, makes $42,000 a year. She's nothing like Patricia. Meaning she's real, and she's excited to meet you. I told her everything, Mom, about Columbia, about the tuition you paid, about how you worked 2 jobs some summers so I could do unpaid internships, about how you're the reason I'm a lawyer at all, and she thinks you sound amazing. When do I get to meet this paragon of honesty?" "Next Sunday. I thought I'd cook dinner at your place. She wants to see where I grew up, the house you raised me in. If that's okay?" "That's more than okay. That's perfect." After we hung up, I walked through my modest house, the one Patricia had been so embarrassed by. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, original hardwood floors that creaked, a kitchen with appliances from 2008. It was worth maybe $350,000, a fraction of what the Westmore Estate or Marcus's Pearl District apartment cost, but it held 43 years of memories. David's reading chair by the window, the kitchen table where Marcus had done homework for 12 years, the wall with pencil marks tracking his height from age 5 to 18, the backyard where we'd had birthday parties on a budget and family barbecues and quiet Sunday mornings. This house represented something Patricia could never understand. The wealth that comes from building a life together, from sacrificing for people you love, from choosing truth over image. No amount of designer furniture or abstract art could replicate that value. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "P.S. Rachel said to tell you she can't wait to hear stories about me as a kid. I'm terrified." I smiled and texted back, "I have 43 years of material. Better buckle up." The response came immediately. A laughing emoji, then, "That's what I'm counting on. Love you, Mom. Love you too, sweetheart." I set my phone down and looked at my mother-in-law's diamond ring sparkling on my hand. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply refusing to be erased, insisting on truth and waiting for the people you love to find their way home. They usually do eventually, if you're patient enough and strong enough to hold steady while they figure out what really matters. And what really matters isn't image or status or carefully constructed narratives about being self-made. What matters is knowing who you are, where you came from, and having the courage to honor both. That's a lesson worth teaching, even if it takes 43 years and 1 cancelled wedding for it to finally sink in.